Okay, 1, 2, 3, Polizei. After the sparring, we are now going to read through our YouTube document. Exactly. A tree does nothing else but being a tree all day and doing what trees do, growing. Given the right circumstances, it will grow into a pretty magnificent tree. Same with us. When we practice being ourselves, over time we grow into magnificent human beings. What are the components of living the life of your dreams? Getting the priorities right, knowing what you want. This oftentimes comes with having tasted a lot of things and sensing what is close to what you want and what is completely far away from what you want. What feels right and true for you in your heart of hearts, in your intuition, because our intuition is our very own bodily intelligence that takes in all different kinds of factors and gives out a feeling response to you. Basically telling you where you should be going in this lifetime and where life is leading you towards, where life is guiding you towards with your intuition. I help people decide their behavior as to why they are not doing what they need to do or why they are doing things they don't want to be doing. For that, I'm utilizing my time and learn the skill to enjoy working a lot and do all the things that I know I should be doing. I love charity, but I also hate charity. I hate charity because oftentimes when you give the money to a lot of charities, they have large infrastructure of executives which would make a lot of money in other companies with the same skill. So they make a lot of money there because strength they have, their leadership capacities, there's nothing going wrong with it. And in fact, what is leadership capacity? We can explore that in a later video. It is just the more and the bigger the charity gets, less goes to the people on the other hand. The charity that we're doing is exactly what I'm living with, documenting all day, and we can exactly see where each dollar is going. How can we deploy the capital in a more efficient way? We would like to have our input because we have all been stupid with the money and we have been very brilliant with money. Not all of us, but if you want to be, you can become that. And so that is going to and be directed to the charity. How I achieve silence of mind. Probably life had me waiting 8 years to become worthy of having something to say, because only after 8 years I felt worthy of having something to say, and then life permitted it to come out the way that it did and the way that it now does. The brain goes, I can't have this limiting belief because I have already done it. That's why one of the best ways to overcome your limiting beliefs is to actually take the actions and to progress beyond that limiting beliefs by proving to you that you have what it takes to make this action possible and happen. Your story is not where you start, it's where you take it to. It is amazing what the human spirit can do with some faith and some courage and some will. It must be true because it hurt. Oftentimes we assume that things are true because they hurt us. And that's a logic and an emotional reasoning that people have, that because it hurt me, it must be true. It is simple to run a data-driven one-person coaching business with time management, positivity, friends, and actions. So if you want to see how much somebody is here, look at their body and look at their relationship. Look at what kind of partner they have attracted, because the partner that we attract is a mirror of us, of our inner world. Basically who we are and how we are by ourselves when we are okay by ourselves. This is the way that the type of partner that we can attract, because frankly we also want a partner who is okay by themselves, by himself, by herself. But are we that type of person that mirrors these qualities that I'm then able to attract, so that these frequencies or vibrations match? The majority of people have too much stuff and not enough resources. Consumption and production may make byproducts. Be like water and be like smoke. Bruce Lee and Alex Hormozi. Behaviors, habits, and mannerisms. It's all about the actions that we take. It's about the behaviors. It's about the mannerisms. It's about habits. It's about how we carry ourselves. Right? Behaviors, mannerisms, actions, habits. Environment, Behaviors, mannerisms, actions, habits, environments, that's all we do, how we carry ourselves. No game is worth a rush. People still want to feel the mastery over their lives, even with AI, and especially then. And so it is this when I'm going to be capitalizing on my online brand. It is always two-sided. You can go to one part of town and hang out with the drug addicts and have a whole different experience than if you go to the rich part of town and hang with the millionaires. But that takes a little bit longer, and that's the practice to not hang in the negativity. So important people look the part to go to high-level gatherings, overcoming regret. Oftentimes when we feel regret, we are looking backwards and we're regretting either not having done certain things or having done other things that we did not want to do. So regret is basically the feeling of wishing that the state back then would have been different and we would have made different choices. Now, some of that is healthy regret, and the outcome of that regret is basically to show you and to teach you that you definitely should have done things in the past, but now you need to correct it and actually behave differently right now, because most of the time regret is not seen by people as exactly that they take the lesson from that and they start behaving differently right now. Usually people do not do that. What people usually do is they look back into the place where they were regretting, and when they were actually honest to themselves, they would also see that the reason why they've regretted not taking action is because in the very moment of the past they were looking to an even further distant past and regretting that, hence not taking action in that moment of the past, and now looking back to that moment of the past where they were not taking action because they were regretting an even later moment of the past. Do you have that pattern inside of yourself? Have you noticed that within yourself, that you tend to not take action and rather behave things of the past? Well, this is exactly what decoding human behavior is all about. So that we get to understand what is behind our behavior, that we are able to decode that and find the answer to that, because it is in the cause of the behavior that the answer is contained. Meaning, if you want to change a behavior, you cannot just change the behavior and try to go on the behavior and try to change that. You got to see, what is the behavior giving you? And that's what I mean with the cause. What is the cause of the behavior? And here let me give you a few examples so that you start to understand what the cause of the behavior usually is, or in some ways can be. In the example of the regret, for example, it could be that the person is going again and again and again into those regret scenarios because they feel that the regret helps them to let go of some stored energy, of emotions, of anger, of frustration, etc. That could be one thing. Or it is possible that the anger leads the person into a deep state of sadness. And what is sadness? Usually this is a means to connect with ourselves. So each human being has a need for connection. We can fill that need for connection in many ways. Some people meet that through their partner exclusively. Some people don't even meet that by their partner, they meet that with their kids. People who don't have kids and a partner usually meet that with a dog or a cat or multiple. Some people who don't have that meet that with drugs. That's a way to meet this warmth, this need for connection. And that is also what people do. And some people meet it in a very healthy way. And there we can see how some problems can come. If the only source of connection, which is a need that you have, now you may deny it, but that doesn't serve you, because you're basically arguing with reality. So it's like bitching when it rains. You're like, all right, I guess you can do that, but is it foolish or is it not? I would say it is, but is it foolish or is it not? But isn't it foolish or is it not? Or is it? But isn't it foolish or is it foolish? But is it not foolish? Right? You can do whatever you want. You just got to deal with the consequences of your behavior. And arguing with the fact that you have a need and not wanting to have the need doesn't make the need go away. It just makes the whole situation worse. And so how do I know that? Well, go for a while without connection, right? And If you just sit in the cave and meditate, that's going to be fine. But try to function. Try to really sit by yourself alone in a room and try to really function and be productive and do all of the things well and to eat well and provide yourself with food and do some sport and get up on time and go to bed on time and have your energies in balance. You will see that you will probably start to struggle. Now, different people have different levels of need. Like, how much do they need this connection? Right? It's different for different people. Obviously, we all know the distinction between introvert and extrovert, and there's something to it. Some people have a higher need. I, for example, can say that I need a lot of connection with people. Right? But it's also become that I need a lot of connection with people and can handle a lot of social interactions. This is something that I truly enjoy. We dip my finger in the vinegar so that the Nagelpilz recedes. Like a receipt, like a proposal, you know what I mean? It recedes. I'm receiving also a lot of good insights all day, every day, making my content. It is fine. And so no gain is worth a rush. And so this is basically what we mean with that regret, right? It can bring us into contact with connection with ourselves, and we don't get connection with other people. We get that for ourselves. It can also be that it brings us into a state of our nervous system being wound down. Because when we overextend ourselves, we have our nervous system active, which can be when we are constantly stressed, we are constantly engaged, or we feel like we are in charge. We go to work and we have to make things happen, and we're gonna be always alert. And then we come home, and then we have children. We're gonna do laundry. We're gonna do these and these things. And it's getting late, and you still gotta do tasks and chores. It is going to be that. And so people still want to feel mastery over their lives, even with especially then. Important people look the part to go to high-level gatherings, overcoming regret. When you just know what you're doing and you are not doing the right thing, but you don't know what to do instead. Exactly. I end up where life needs me to be by making the decisions every day, the feeling during the course of action. Have you had life events that made you realize it was time for a course correction? I had several. Acne, being single, unable to find a girlfriend, feeling too ashamed to talk to my friends, breakup, and a broken chin bone. What are yours and what did you learn? I learned from them remaining in emotional balance and the importance of connections. Emotional balance, but what does it mean tactically? Like, how can we adjust our behaviors? What does it mean tactically speaking? Meaning, how do we adjust our behaviors, and what are the what-if scenarios that most people need to pay attention to? So it's not about the how-to, but it's really about the what-if, because the how-to is pretty straightforward. Remain in emotional balance. That means, tactically speaking, number one, the skill of feeling your emotions. It is very important to feel your emotions when they come up, and that is a skill. It's one of those life skills, like knowing what food is good or not, knowing when to rest, knowing how to defend yourself, knowing how to have hard conversations. One of those life skills. Like knowing how to feel your emotions. It's one of those life skills. Like, it's one of your learning how to shift your focus. It's one of those life skills that you gotta have. Doing a handstand, like it is a skill. So you gotta do it. So you gotta be willing to do it to actually get to a decent level of skill where it will work. Right? Where the skill acquisition time that you spend, where the time that you spend acquiring that skill is paying off. Remaining in emotional balance. That means, first of all, learning to feel all of the feelings that you have. And that does not mean indulgence. Learning to feel feelings does not mean indulging in feelings. When we indulge in feelings, we basically use the feeling and we wallow in it in order to get some kind of payoff. The intention between feeling the emotions is not to get some kind of payoff, right? And what I mean by wallowing could be either indulging in the emotion, that could be either towards the positive, where we're like, oh my god, and we really go into that high and like into this enthusiasm, and we don't want to let it go. Or like we are with a partner, with a person, and like we don't want to let them go. This is like emotional indulgence, right? We don't want it to stop. On the other hand, it can also be that we wallow in this resistance of like, man, I don't want it. It's like nothing is gonna work. And there's also a reason why we then do that. We wouldn't do it if it weren't giving us something, because it feels bad, but sometimes it feels good to feel bad. Because what comes from feeling bad is the feeling of connection with yourself, or the secondary benefit is the feeling of connection with yourself, or the secondary benefit of increasing the likelihood that somebody else is going to pay attention to you or give you some other love equivalent. And what are love equivalents? Love equivalents are the traits or states or characteristics that we believe come before love. They are basically a prerequisite for love. It means only if this, then love, right? They equate that. So it is a necessary condition. It's kind of like a condition for love. Only when we have that, then we allow ourselves to feel the love, because we believe that is the prerequisite for that. Now, and where did they come from? Now, when we grew up, and our egoic entity formed, when we grew up, these love equivalents and so now when we grew up, these love equivalents, they were prerequisites, as I said. Our parents placed them upon us, or we placed them upon ourselves by our parents reinforcing that and basically making us behave in that way and training us that we only receive the love if we display these characteristics, if we are being recognized, if we're being paid attention to, if we're achieving, if we're doing well. Or even on the flip side, if we're not doing well, if we're doing drama, if we are hurting, if we're sick. If we only get the love that we pay attention to, then we equal that with love. And this is where it gets twisted, and this is where people get hurt based on this conditioning, because I'm on this path of personal development, and basically the whole question is, how do you win at life? How do you become a winner? Like, how do you really do that? And everybody would love to have that, where you're like, it's working, and like you feel strong, and you eat healthy, and your life works out. It's like you actually get up early, and you do the work, and you go to sports, and you get some results, and people respond to you. You're being noticed. People tell you how great you are. You have a good partner who is very attractive inside and out, where people are like, okay, I would love to have that type of life. And so that's the whole question. But the real question is, why do some people not get there? And one part of that is because they're really conflicted inside of themselves, because they've learned that on one hand, there could be one thing that they don't deserve that, so that the outcome is not really there, or really could be that they just manifest behaviors that really don't lead to that outcome of being a winner at life, meaning being constantly sick, putting yourself in a position where you're constantly being sick and emphasizing that. Because when people pay attention to you when you're sick, then it's not great. Then you're gonna behave unconsciously in ways where you're getting sick all of the time. And this is not great. So remaining in emotional balance, as I said, number one, the skill is to actually learn to feel your emotions right in the beginning, right when they come up. As I said, it's not about indulgence of emotions, it's about feeling them, and feeling them right when they come up. And why do we do that? Not to distract you, but in order so that you deal with the things as they come up. It's like an executive who doesn't let anything on the desk sit. Now, and in the early days, you're like, sometimes you have things on your desk that you just don't know how to solve because you haven't done it so often, or you have never done it before, solving that type of problem at that type of magnitude on that time frame that it needs to be done. And then you're like, okay, and you do something else instead because that is apparently easier. And frankly also, you really only have that much energy each day, and if you solve something for the first time, which is hard and challenging, it may be that, yeah, you really won't be able to do that very well. It might be that you really won't be able to do this very well. And so, yes, that's it. So, remaining in emotional balance, the importance of connection, and also growing out of immaturity and selfishness. A life that works is about giving, it's not about getting. So, the importance of connection, this is also something that I understood in my own life quite late, and it took me quite a long time until I actually got that, because there were things standing in the way of me actually going and looking for this connection and also asking for this connection when I felt that I needed that. And so I understood it very early that you are the average of the people that you surround yourself with. It's very important to have good friends, wealthy friends, influential friends, not so that you can get from them, but because they have beliefs, they act in a certain way, and it makes it feel possible to you, where you're like, oh man, that's what's required, and you're like, what am I the fuck doing? Peeling potatoes, picking my nose, sitting in a sweater and a hoodie in my old bedroom that looks and stinks, that looks weird and stinks, and they are living in this amazing office with this glass window overlooking the city, and you're like, okay, got it, how do I get this? Like, how much is it? You're like, oh. And then you start to get it. It's like, oh, I actually don't even have a suit. I don't even know how to tie a tie. And you're like, oh, I get it. And they have like 50 different ties, combining with the twos and combining with the suit. And you have 0. And you're like, that's what is required. I understand. All right. So the importance of connection. And also growing out of immaturity and selfishness. Exactly, growing out of immaturity and selfishness. So that we understand that life is really not about getting, it's really about giving, treating myself with love and not harshness. So, what were your wake up calls and what did you learn? Write it in the comments below. And why not in 2025 have uncomfortable conversations? Clean up your life and your attic. To start talking about your problems, because you see, when you clean up your life, you clean up your inside as well, because you realize that you can only clean up your circumstance, your life, in the way that your inside is cleaned up. And so it's really like a back and forth, because you accept the mess around you to the degree that you accept the mess within you. And so you go through those inner processes and spend time by yourself or with other people, and you clarify the things. It's like, who are you? What do you want? And what are the traits? Like, what are the thinking patterns? What are the thoughts that you most often engage in? What are the activities that you do every day that you get really good at over many years? What are those, right? And then you start talking about your problems and build a strong circle of friends. You start a sport that makes you feel alive, and you confront people that did you wrong in the past. You build the life of your dreams. Right? And so it's a back and forth, and that's why it really takes time. Not only does cleanup take time, but it's like you don't only make things clean, like you keep them clean. Like, that's the real outcome. The outcome is not to do a one-time cleanup of all your stuff and pull it out in the living room and throw a third of it away or give it away and put the rest back. It's like the practice is to keep it clean, to live in an environment that is clean. And you gotta like maintain it. It's gonna get dirty again, just by default. That's how life works. So you gotta maintain it. And that's the question, how is that done? How do we maintain the cleanliness in this way? That's the real question. And so in this way it goes back and forth. You got to clean the same things many times. So if you have a desk in your office and you have your kitchen counter and you have your bathroom and you have where your shoes are and where you put your keys and all these things, you got to like consistently and repeatedly clean that. Consistently and repeatedly clean those places in order to maintain them clean. And it's also a thing that you can only make it and keep it clean to the degree that your mind is clean. That you only keep and maintain it clean to the degree that your mind is clean. Growing out of immaturity into selfishness. So why not do the things that you know that you should be doing? Great. This was a great video.